You're listening to the REITE Club podcast, where the focus is all about helping you grow your real estate investment portfolio and live the life you want to live. Come grow with us and join our community at thereiteclub.com. And now your hosts, Sarah Larby and Alfonso Salemi.
So, now doing this for a while, and, back in, you said 2012, I believe was the first, when you started with the condo conversion and now getting a little bit more, I would say I've never done a student rental, and it's just for all the exact same reasons everybody talks about and the worries. And obviously there's a system and a way to take care of it, but I haven't wrapped my head around that. So somebody that hasn't invested in, in the student rental, what's kind of the advantage, or what's the pitch to be like, it's not as bad as you think, or maybe something, maybe you have a crazy story that, oh my God, I never thought I'd be getting into this, and this is why.
I can go on for a while here, but absolutely. I did mention that I invested in Hamilton, so I can segue that into Peterborough, where I bought 2 single-family homes in Hamilton. And Hamilton's a fantastic market, but I invested downtown, where the tenant profile is a little bit sketchy, not a reliable source of fantastic tenants. So at the same time, from an outside investor, you buy the place and you want it filled with the best tenants possible. But even with this advanced screening process, as things aren't always perfect. And so actually within each property, I was vacant after 1 year or 8 months. And out of one of those 2 places, I believe I had to go through an eviction. So that cost me about 4 months of rent. And when I connected with this investor in Peterborough prior to buying my 2 homes, he said, look, I'm full all the time at 6 beds. And what's the worst case scenario? Someone leaves and then I've got 5 beds instead of 6. So you're really collecting a consistent amount of rent. You're never going to be vacant, right? You've got students who sometimes sign 12-month leases, which covers their summer. And if not, I've been able to get students at any point in the year close to this college because there's programs running all year long. So that's the biggest difference, is that stability in cash flow. Because as you know, when you're renting a single family home, if that family moves out, you're not collecting any rent at all. And so because of my experience in Hamilton, I was highly encouraged to find a solution where I'll always get paid every month.
Yeah, and I just want to highlight the point, because you mentioned the screening process, and I know obviously with Laurel and Daniel and their business and all the tenants that they have and they screen, and obviously with our rental program as well too, and even with Sarah, she has a whole checklist of screening. So are you saying sometimes tenants might lie about something?
I believe so. Yeah, unfortunately they do. Well, there's several ways around the system, I believe. With respect to references. No, I know you're poking fun. I know you're suggesting that. Of course, there are ways. We refer to them as professional tenants, right? And with respect to references, job history, anything else. I mean, anyone can make up anything. And I don't know if you've gone through anything similar to what I went through in Hamilton, but absolutely, it's never a perfect system. And although my property manager definitely did their best to put in the best possible tenant in, could you imagine the amount of rejections that occurred prior to finding that those tenants that I needed to evict like 7 months later? Could you imagine? So.
Yeah, and you know what? I want to just touch on that point really quickly, because I think you have a unique standpoint where, you are working primarily with property managers, because just by geographic location, you're not able to be at your properties. And honestly, that some people view that as maybe as a negative. I see that as a huge positive. But the question that I want to ask is, now when you eventually landed on your property manager, yes, it is keeping them accountable. And for sure, tenants are going to lie on their apps and tell you things that aren't true because they want to live at your property. They're nice properties. But when you were going out and searching for property managers and saying, hey, I'm going to be in another province, I'm going to be far away, how do you keep them accountable? Because we all, if we're managing our own properties, we're going to pick the best of the best because they're our properties, right? It's our skin in the game. These property managers have hundreds, if not thousands of units that they manage, that it's more of a process. So how do you screen that property manager? What are some tips for the REITE Club Nation that when they're looking for property managers?
Yeah, well, number one, I would say reach out to your network. You know, it all starts with working with the right realtor, and then that realtor is going to provide strong references with respect to the property managers that have served them well and their network. Okay, so that's where I begin. And my property manager in Peterborough doesn't, like you say, manage hundreds of different places. It's a stronger relationship. He's being paid more for the student rental than a normal property because there is more work, as you said. So there's that. And, 100%, I'm in full agreement that even if I lived next to my property, I'm not going to self-manage it because it's a lower ROI on my time. You want to outsource these lower paying jobs, lower paying tasks. There's no judgment there. It's just, it is what it is. And focus on your higher hourly tasks to make financial sense, and as well as to scale, right? I'm building in Peterborough fairly quickly, and my goal is to have 10 properties in the next 4 years. So even if I was living there, I couldn't manage all that myself. I wouldn't want to. So I sort of began with the end in mind, as they say, and start out with hiring a property manager and communicating with them effectively in terms of your expectations. And it's not always perfect, but it's a relationship that you build over time. And the way I see it, the more properties I have in Peterborough, the better service I get, right? And that you're sort of consolidating your power team, and that's an extremely effective way of building a real estate business.
So Jared, you just mentioned that you were talking about you want to have another 10 properties. So I would imagine now that you've kind of hit that magical wall of being to do it all yourself, right?
Yeah.
And so how are you going to manage this? Like, are you looking for JVs? Or do you already have people who are working with you in a joint venture? Or what's your plan? Like, tell us a little bit about that, because we all know, you do hit the wall at a certain point. I don't care who you are, how much money you have. The banks just start, you walk in the door and they start to laugh, right?
Yeah. I definitely have hit that wall. Well, I always joke, and I don't take myself that seriously. I always say I'm always broke because I'm a real estate investor that has every last dime in their properties. Not every last dime, but you get the idea. And so the goal to grow is to do it with joint venture money, where I'm sourcing private deals and managing the properties. So in return for sourcing a great deal, which would be acquiring a property that best suits a student rental in Peterborough for well under market value. In addition to that, plus managing the property and keeping it occupied with responsible tenants and ensuring the property cash flows, I would ask for the money for the 20% to qualify, the 20% down payment, and that the partner qualifies for the mortgage. As you know, financing becomes more challenging with each property you own in your own name. Yeah, so I actually just locked in my first JV deal last week. So this third property in Peterborough is a joint venture property that we're going to close on December 18th.
Well, congratulations, because
that's
a big deal. And once you've done one, right, then you sort of get under your belt and you go, okay, well, that wasn't that hard, and off you go and you find other people. So how are you finding the people who go into joint ventures with you? What are you doing?
Yeah, well, I was just at the Grant Cardone event yesterday with you, and it's just about getting yourself out there, networking, and letting people know what you do. That's such a big part of it. At the beginning you feel that either people won't care or they won't trust you because you just want their money and so on and so forth. But it's just not true. And there's a lot of people who want to get into real estate, but they just don't know how, or they don't want to, deal with tenants and maintenance issues and all that kind of stuff. And so this is an ideal opportunity for people to get into the real estate game and learn it so that they can go on and do it themselves after.
Thanks for listening to the REITE Club podcast and joining our community of real estate investors online at thereiteclub.com, where the focus is about helping you grow. We look forward to seeing you again next week. Thanks from your hosts, Sarah Larby and Alfonso Salemi.